fucked. Yep, my truck's fucked. Clearly that is not correct alignment. And the topper's popping off. Well, here I am, fucked. Well, here I am screwed. As big as you can be. Yeah, I still have my health. But I'm parked at an old school ground in a little tiny village. And my truck frame is split in half. If you gotta be stranded, at least go for a good sunset. Okay, here's the latest. The other day I went for a great drive down one of these mountain roads. And on the return from the mountain drive, they often will put cement wherever there's a dry wash or a arroyo, A-R-R-O-Y-O, I believe. I haven't checked to see the correct pronunciation. And this one had been washed out around the concrete pad. So when I went over it, you know, the truck probably dropped a foot because I didn't hit at the back of it. But the truck, something seemed different. So I ended up towing the trailer, you know, 50 kilometers or so. I towed it to a Rancho San Dijonno. I'll spell that. And stayed there a couple, 3 days because I heard such great things about it, and it is awesome. And as I was coming out of there, you know, I had to drive 30 kilometers to get out. It's, the road is wrapped around the mountains, and it's rough. But I could feel what I thought the trailer was pushing the truck at times through the hollows. Something's not right. So after it did it a couple times, I stopped to check on it, and I had it re-inspected this late fall, and it was fine. But now, that's a huge problem on both sides. The frame is split in half. Right in half. The topper's even lifted. I drove the trailer here because I needed to get somewhere where I had cellular, where I could be stable, park for a spell, and be close to a village, not far from a highway, the only highway. And now I'm in a very bad situation because I have a truck that can't tow, probably can't really drive it, probably. My life money is tied up in both these vehicles. I have a bad feeling, part of it is, am I becoming a Mexican citizen? And this is going to be my new, like it or not, home. I don't know. I'm just trying to work through it all. Because it took, a few days for that guy to weld up that frame. And now that it's split like that, you would have to get it realigned, re-supported. It's going to be a massive job. But it's still cheaper than buying another truck. But, I'm in Mexico, Baja. Where am I going to find a qualified welder with the raw materials and the ability to fix this correctly? I don't know. I'm going to work through it. But for sure, this is definitely the end of my boondocking, overlanding. I'm going to, if I get out of Mexico with all that I own, then it will be time for me to go work full-time somewhere. Because to pay for all of this now, it's the last thing I expected to have happen that would alter my trip. Maybe something medical would happen, or I got robbed or held up, not the frame of the truck breaking. So I need to limp back to Canada somehow, some way at some point. Maybe I'm gonna have to try and store this up and fly back. But the only airport that I know of is likely in La Paz or down at the southern tip. And then, you know, again, how do I get there? Do I ride my fat bike all the way there? I don't know. I'm gonna call the BAJA insurance company just to see if they have any leads or input. I know it's not really an insurance issue, but they would have had to have told people back to U.S. So if I can get back to the U.S., that would be a huge step. As I am fortunate to have some good friends in Greenville. So here's the whole story. That frame has been cracking for 4 years, and we don't know if it's because the brackets or the saddlebags were drilled or they used existing holes, because the crack started from the bottom up to the holes. A couple times the mechanics welded it. That never did anything, it just split. And then 2 years ago, I had a professional welder weld it and guarantee it, and it was fine up until I had it last inspected by him this past fall, knowing I was going into the U.S. to do the Continental Divide. So this is the last thing I expected to happen. So, I don't know, right? But the thing about traveling in Baja is the Mexicans here control the speed not by police, but by putting in a lot of very abrupt humps, speed bumps. And they're not pretty. A lot of them are pretty harsh. Example of the speed bump. Speed management. So I don't know if collectively these going up and down, because when you're not used to them, they sometimes catch you off guard. And so you hit them a little harder than you want to. When I decided to explore some of these roads you're looking at right now, I was driving along over a concrete pad. For example, here's one, and I'll show you another one. So here, how they manage water flow is they don't put in culverts, because when it rains, and it's a heavy rain, it floods and blows a lot of debris down and blows out the culverts. And here's a final example, just to show you that you could be 30 kilometers in on a mountain road, and there'll be a concrete pad to help prevent the road from getting washed out or eroded away by the floods. So that's the last example, but just to give you a variety of examples. I'm leaving these videos as I felt and thought in the moment that I was in. You know, every moment of the day, new things come into play to change where you're coming from. And for me, you can't weld that frame in Canada. You have to cut it off completely ahead of the front shackle of the leaf spring, and then find a frame and have it weld on there. It's a big dollars, serious dollars. It wouldn't be, in my mind, worth spending 20,000 Canadian to do that to this 97 truck. So in the meantime, I contacted the owner of the Rancho, Clarence, and he referred me to his welder. I got in touch with Baja Insurance, and they said I had up to $1,000 US for towing. How fast that gets used, I have no clue. And a few shops that I could potentially contact, nothing near me. I started just working that problem. And yeah, if I can find, if I get, you know, well, the goal is once I get back to the U.S. too, I'm going to have to sell the trailer in order to have money to buy another vehicle, and that's a priority. We live in a society, you need a vehicle, unless you're in a big urban center, which I have no interest in being in at all. And I sent a resume last night to a friend. Hopefully he can help me get a job. And that puts an end to this lifestyle. You know, I gave it my best shot. I've enjoyed it very much. I pushed the envelope for me financially and you know, maybe train wise. And I've done so because I love doing what I'm doing. But clearly, I'm at the end of the rope, you know, with the truck frame splitting in half. So if anyone's looking for a Black Series 15 heavily modified, all the videos on the modification are on YouTube as well for reference. I'm looking to sell. And honestly, you know, in 1997, they weren't building vehicles to tow full time. A lot of people love my truck, but I don't think they've ever owned one. I think they know someone that owns one, but if I can get it back to Canada or US, actually the US, I'm going to try parting it out. I'm going to sell the trailer, and whatever money I can get together, I'll buy myself another vehicle and head back to Canada, and we'll go from there. Reboot, if you will. This is the mechanic, and then the further person away is Joseph, the welder. And after work, he popped by to have a look, and they discussed it in Spanish, and I could tell right away that it's a no-go. And to more details on how all this got tic-tac-toed to the right guy to do the welding, because it was quite a process that once I thought I had it a plan, it shortly changed into a new plan. So during the time lapse, I'll get into more details about how I found a welder and how that all unfolded. So I've taken stuff off the top, not a lot, but I'm really hoping we'll be able to lift this topper off without me having to remove the roof rack, that maybe 4 guys can lift it off. So that's kind of, I've taken everything, you know, of size and weight out of this vehicle, because he wants to take the box off as well, and it's 25 kilometers away. So I'll ride the flat bike back, and meanwhile I shoved everything under the trailer, and the toolbox and canoe are strapped to it. And so there's 3 of these bins, my toolbox. So this is kind of where it's going to be at. You know, when you're full-time overland, you don't get to run home, limp home, and then fix or improve whatever at your leisure in your own shop, your own garage. Something breaks, you can get towed there. But me, I had to take everything out of the inside of that truck, all my storage. And now I've had to, in order to remove the topper, because we need the topper off, and I need the box off as well, before he can attack the frame, which I really hope he can fix. I don't know. One minute I feel that it can be, and next minute I don't. So I lifted it up as much as I could so that people can get their hands underneath of it. I'm going to remove the door when I have 2 people here to hold it. And then I got to bike back 25 kilometers to the trailer. Hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed. Hit the notification bell. Let's roll. First look after riding 25 kilometers from the trailer to the truck.